What's happening in the United States and how will these things affect our Global Advantage Fund? Let's find out in today's broadcast. Also, we'll be launching the peso-denominated Dollar Fund Distributor Aid instructional video on today's episode. Good morning, AXA. I'm Tin Militante, Advisor Transformation Manager from DLND. Welcome to another episode of Investment News Live. First up, let's take a look at America and how our Global Advantage Fund is performing. Today, we have with us Investment Strategy and Communications Manager Ramon Domingo to give us the latest update on our GAF. Hi, Ramon!
Good morning, and thanks for having me today. Good morning, AXA. So, for today, I will be sharing my presentation. Alright, so good morning. So something that we all probably noticed from the pandemic in the last year is that it's changed how we go about our daily lives. But before we start, I just want to say that we're going to be opening the floor for questions later on. So please do ask your questions in the chat, and then we'll make sure to try to answer what we can later on. So something that we probably all noticed from the pandemic in the last year is that it has changed how we go about our daily lives. 2020 has seen a large boom in online and digital services as they have integrated more and more to what we have been doing in the day-to-day. And this is especially true for developed countries like the US, which can be considered the home base of all the large tech companies, and also where our Global Advantage Fund is invested in. So services like Netflix, Zoom, Microsoft Teams are just some of the online services that have boomed during the pandemic, and also Postmates and DoorDash, which is kind of like the Grab food and Lala food that they have in the US. So these have done extremely well during 2020, and it's actually what has also been able to push the adoption by the general consumer of tech in their daily lives. So we can also see how that has happened in how the GAF companies have performed. So what I'm showing to you now are the top companies in the Global Advantage Fund. And as you can see, they've posted tremendous growth for 2020. The likes of Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon have largely outperformed other stocks for the year. For context, the broader US stock market index, the S&P 500, has performed at 16% for the year. And mind you, 16% for the year, especially in 2020, was already a large outperformance compared to the rest of the world, the rest of the world's equities. And GAF had a whopping 40% for the year. So it's no joke and it's no secret that tech has largely outperformed other companies for 2020. And one company that did really well and that actually jumped into the top 4 companies in GAF, taking over both Google and Facebook, is Tesla. And Tesla, I think, is one manifestation or one example of how tech companies were able to do so well in the first place. It's because of their innovation. Elon Musk actually went haywire last year. His innovation into product lineup, the growth narrative, and self-driving technology, as well as manufacturing expansion plans, is what gave investors a lot of confidence in this company. And you can see this 743% is not a typo. They really performed 743% for the year. As well as, and this is also because of better margins compared to traditional automakers. Cutting dealers out, going straight to the consumer, going straight to the buyer instead of going through a dealer, and also having lower production costs because of simple electronic vehicle designs. So it's kind of like they are using the tech company model and using that for a traditional manufacturing company such as cars, but they transformed the whole model of the car business into something that is tech focused. And you can see the dividends that it has paid. It has contributed to a lot of growth. And so, what I can say about that is that a lot of tech companies are similar in how they operate. They push for innovation. They always make sure to go for better margins, which they can because they're digital, compared to a company that's physical, which has a lot of those overhead costs that could contribute to why they experienced slower growth in previous years. And also last year is the main reason why we didn't see them perform well compared to tech companies. So that's just a basic review, and I'm sure you all know how tech companies performed in 2020. But what I wanted to share also with you today is our market outlook for 2020, specifically for the US, for 2021, specifically for the US. So the story that really turned around 2020 came about in the last quarter of the year, which is the development of the vaccine, as this has provided good news for the market globally. For those investment markets that were not performing so well, the vaccine news helped that to bounce back. It also gives hope that moving forward, markets can begin to recover as more and more people get vaccinated, and thus can now go out and resume their work and livelihood. This means that global equities should be a good investment to start the year, especially equity markets that have had a slow 2020, wherein all they can do from now on is to start to recover. For the US, since they generally already outperformed the rest of the world, like I said, 16% for the US market, the recovery may be a bit slower since they're already at a higher starting point. Within the US, the broader index, the S&P 500, are poised for a bigger recovery than tech stocks, as tech was the biggest outperformer already last year. So that means more of the normal, the cyclical companies that actually got hit worse by COVID will start bouncing back. So the likes of manufacturing, financials, consumer companies, those kinds of companies are poised to make the bigger bounce back this year compared to the likes of tech. And hopefully that means consumer demand will come back as well. So now the question is that, given this, how will GAF continue to perform? Since GAF has largely outperformed the broader US index for most of 2020, some say that they have actually peaked in terms of growth. However, the fund is not just made up of these top tech companies that I showed earlier, and GAF still stands a significant chance to continue gaining, as a lot of the companies in that fund still need to make a recovery. However, do note that given where GAF is at now, 2021 performance may be a bit more muted or a bit slower. Now, let's talk about the effect of the Biden presidency on what a market recovery could look like. So one factor that is very key to the recovery, or very crucial to the recovery, is sometimes overlooked, and that is stimulus packages from the government. This is basically what helps keep consumer demand afloat, what helps keep businesses afloat, especially those that have closed down, and what helps keep those that were unemployed, hit by unemployment, able to go about their daily lives. So just this year, Biden has proposed an economic package of $1.9 trillion, which includes bigger stimulus checks, more aid for the unemployed and hungry, and those facing eviction, and of course, support for companies and businesses that have been hit by COVID as well. So what this means is that just because the vaccine is already around the corner and developed countries have already started vaccination, that doesn't mean that all the other problems of 2020 are gone. So unemployment is still real, and it's more that we're learning to live around the pandemic. So with this larger stimulus package, the US market could really be helped to recover more, as it's really the vaccine and the stimulus packages that will help the market for now before the vaccine can finally, before enough of the population is vaccinated that people can finally go out and start working again. So that ends our outlook for 2021. And before opening up for questions, I'd just like to give a recommendation in terms of what funds would do well. We're looking at global equities, since, like I said, US equities may be a bit more slow. So with that, if you're a bit more on the aggressive side, GDAF growth looks to do well, since they're invested in a lot of global equity markets, including Asia, which as an emerging market, Asia is poised to do very well this year. One of the larger bounce backs expected this year. So GDAF growth will have an exposure there. And if you're a little bit on the more conservative side, GDAF multi-asset will do well also, because it's basically GDAF growth, but then you also have your bond exposure. So that's it for my end. Back to you, Ted.
Thank you so much, Ramon, for allotting time for us this morning. Now that you know what's happening in the global markets, go ahead and update your clients about their current policies and investments with us. You may also download the latest fund fact sheets via the AXA website. Speaking of global investments, our peso policyholders can invest in our GDAF and GAF through the peso-denominated dollar funds. In our desire to help you assist your clients with their investments, we have prepared a video featuring the peso-denominated dollar funds primer and distributor aid. So let's watch this video. Good morning, AXA. I'm Tin Militante, Advisor Transformation Manager from DLND. The peso-denominated funds are accessible to our peso variable unit-linked products. To help you explain these funds better to your clients, we've made available for you these following sales aids: Product Primer and Distributor Aid. Now let's go through each one. The Product Primer is a 2-page selling aid which we can use to help guide our clients through the salient features and benefits of our peso-denominated dollar funds. Let's go through each section. The first section of the primer displays our tagline for the PDDF: Explore the simplified world of global investing. Below this, you can find the 3 main benefits which the PDDFs can provide: convenience, global diversification, and seamless fund switching. Next, we show a brief description of our global funds which are now available in peso, namely Global Dynamic Allocation Funds or GDAF, which are invested in assets across the world and has the unique auto-rebalancing feature to help mitigate risks. Global Advantage Fund or GAF, our most popular global fund, which is invested in an exchange-traded fund which is heavy on tech stocks including the famous FAAMG companies Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Google. The next section gives more detail on each of the 4 global funds now available in peso. The risk profile shows that whether the client is conservative, moderate, or aggressive, we have an available PDDF fund for him or her. Regions covered highlights the international reach of the funds. Fund Focus gives a snapshot of the asset classes that each fund is invested in and the possible allocations in percentage. The returns portion explains that the returns of the funds would be dependent on how well the underlying investments perform and also on movements on the exchange rate of the USD versus the PHP. It's important that the client is made aware of this prior to investing in the PDDFs. Here in this illustration, we can see that by investing in both global and local funds, we are able to diversify geographically, allowing more opportunities for our investments. This also spreads out our market risk. The last section of the primer is dedicated to 3 FAQs, which are questions that your client may also have in mind. This serves also as your guide on how to address them properly. Number 1. Where are the peso-denominated dollar funds available? Which peso VUL policies, whether new or existing? Number 2. Whether it is more advantageous to invest in the peso or the dollar version of the global funds. Long story short, it will be better to invest in the peso version if the client's investable funds or income stream is in peso. Number 3. On the peso to dollar conversion. This highlights the capability of AXA as fund manager to avail of competitive exchange rates in handling the peso-denominated dollar funds. The PDDF Distributor Aid is a 3-slide tool which will help us in warming up with our clients to the prospect of investing globally. This comes in handy especially for dealing with clients who are used to investing just locally and may be a bit apprehensive about investing outside the Philippines. In the first page, we acknowledge that the client has made a good start in building wealth by investing in local funds. We then encourage him or her to level up on investments by diversifying globally. We then guide the client to review his or her existing investments using the table so that we can determine their exposure locally and globally. The second page shows an illustration which displays the historical returns over the past 10 years of a basket of local equities versus a mix of local and global stocks. By local equities, we mean the Philippine Stock Exchange Index or PSEI, while global equities here is represented by the MSCI All Country World Index. The graph shows that adding just a little global exposure can potentially improve the returns one can get on the portfolio of investments. Keep in mind that the returns illustrated here are based purely on the performance of the stock indices and do not yet factor in charges related to insurance or fund management. The third page summarizes the 3 main benefits of the PDDF: convenience, global diversification, and seamless fund switching. It also emphasizes that our clients can access our top global funds using peso currency. For more information on the peso-denominated dollar funds, you may watch the training course via LMS. Learn about our newest fund offerings at your own pace and time. The training is presented in a series of short video modules so you can easily track your progress and pick up where you left off. To access this training, you can use your mobile phones, go to the Cornerstone Learn app, and search for the peso-denominated dollar funds online, or go to axa.csod.com. For quick access, scan the QR code on the screen right now. Thank you, everyone. This has been Din Militante.
There you have it. Now we are happy to announce that that video is now available in LMS on demand. Simply search PDDF Primer and Distributor Aid. And now it is time for our Mentimeter. On your devices, go to menti.com and type in the code flashed on your screen.
What's up and good morning, AXA! My name is Jerome Mendoza from DL&D under TTSP. Good morning, guys. And now it's time for our Mentimeter. Please grab your phones and please go now to menti.com and type in the code 9327572. Okay. So our first question will be, how do you feel about the market outlook? A, optimistic, B, neutral, and C, pessimistic, or D, joke lang po, wala pong D, tatlo lang po yan, okay? Please Answer now. You have 10 seconds, guys. So, just like you guys, I'm seller, no? And every time I meet my clients, itong mga optimistic, pessimistic na to, yan. Yan ang mga emotion ng pwede nating ma-feel. Okay, kung magsasign ba si client or something. So, let's now look at the answers. Sino ang sumagot ng una or makita natin ang nangunguna sa ating Mentimeter or ang tinatawag natin pulso ng masa. Ayan. Okay. Oh, maraming optimistic. Very good, guys. That should be the answer. Wala lang iba. Of course, if you are a seller, guys, if you are in this business, dapat lagi tayong optimistic, di ba? Okay. For our next question, let's go to our next question. Okay. So, given the current market conditions, which would be the best recommendation for our customers? Okay. A, allocate 100% equities. B, allocate 100% bonds. Or C, allocate some portion of bonds and some portion of to equities rather. Okay. Answer time is now. Okay. Ayan, ang dami sumasagot ha. Please answer now. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. All right. Let's see if you listen closely to our investment expert. I'm sure, guys, marami tayong natutunan today. And the correct answer should be letter C. Okay, dapat diversified yung ating risk para we have more earnings opportunity. Diba? Ganun man lagi. As the old saying goes, don't put all your eggs in just one basket. Diba? All right. So, okay, ang daming sumagot ng letter C, but yung iba hindi sumasagot. Guys, please answer, no? Let's now proceed to our last and third question will be, the peso-denominated dollar funds are accessible to these AXA peso-denominated policies except, please listen, no? A, existing customers of 3G Exceed, Ambition X, Life Basics, and Accelerator. B, new customers of 3G Exceed, Ambition X, Life Basics, and Accelerator. C, existing and new customers of MLC or My Life Choice. And letter D, existing and new customers of Asset Master. Go! Okay? Answer now, guys. Yan. Ang mananalo po ay nanalo na. Okay? Wala pong prize. Okay? This is just to test you guys if you really listen carefully sa ating LGP for today. Okay? Ayan. All right. Answer is still coming, and the correct answer is letter B. Okay? New customers of 3G Exceed, Ambition X, Life Basics, and Accelerator. Okay? Hindi accessible ang PDDF sa new business, guys. Okay? Ng 3G Exceed, Ambition X, Life Basics, and Accelerator. Okay? Kung nakuha nyo ang tama sagot, that's way to go. So, guys, now if you don't know, okay, now you know, guys. So, thank you so much, guys. Again, Jerome Mendoza from DLND. Good morning.
We have now reached the end of today's broadcast. In today's episode, we learned about what's happening in America and how these factors could affect the Global Advantage Fund. Also, we've learned how to use the peso-denominated dollar funds distributor aid when presenting to our clients. If you want to know more about the peso-denominated dollar funds, you can access the module via LMS anytime, anywhere, as long as you have internet connection. Simply search peso-denominated dollar funds online or scan the QR code that we are flashing on your screen. Your thoughts, opinions, and feedback are important to us. We want to know what you want to know. Please take time to answer our survey so that we may understand how we can help you better. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Once again, I'm Tin Militante, and this has been Investment News Live.